Was the Prime Minister's messaging on point, and what was that a message? Let me start actually with Sugata. Sugata, I know that you have argued that Rahul Gandhi should not have waded into the territory, into the turf, as it were, of the BJP, Hinduism, Hindutva, religion. He did that, and the Prime Minister didn't just respond to those comments, he did towards the latter half of his speech. But he basically sought to trivialize Rahul Gandhi as infantile once again. Do you think that kind of attack will work, given the mood of the opposition, so aggressive that it was seen? The shifting power dynamics were evident in the fact that the opposition almost tried to shout down the Prime Minister while he was speaking. And to be fair, the government did not do that to Rahul Gandhi when he was speaking. Sugata.
Thank you, Barkha. My position on Rahul Gandhi's speech yesterday was that he should have tried to be a reconciler instead of a muckraker or a hellraiser or a kind of demonstrating an anarchic streak. So that was my position on Rahul Gandhi yesterday. And today, Modi's sort of rebuttal of Rahul Gandhi was on expected lines. It was not that there's something he said which has not been said in the past. For instance, this whole reference to Balak Buddhi is trying to bring back the Papuization in a different form, right? So that is something that he was trying to point out repeatedly, and trying to the clip that you played, the Hindi clip that you played about Balak ko behlane ki, trying to keep him happy. He gave several analogies, not just one-time kind of passing reference. He spoke about the Sholay dialogue. He tried to sort of, speak about the election victory. He tried to interpret.
But does it work?
No,
Because,
the question is,
it's a very different parliament now.
No, the parliament is different, but then, Modi was also trying to, there are two constituencies that they're addressing, Barkha. So what has happened is, Rahul Gandhi has his own constituency, which expects him to speak in a certain way, and Modi has a slightly larger constituency, which also expects him to defend certain things in a certain way. So I think they're both addressing that whole thing. And if you noticed one thing, Modi did not really care about the kind of noise that was being created. He just put a headphone on and tried to, I think that it was, I don't know, it was noise cancellation was there or whatever in that phone. But then I think the more very important thing was that he wanted to show that there is some kind of continuity in what he's trying to do. So he spoke in the first phase about development. Then he came to the attack Congress thing. Then he came to election analysis. Then he sort of, spoke about Rahul Gandhi in an indirect way. But, all of that, to be fair to the Prime Minister, all of that was done in a certain kind of frame which parliamentary behavior allows. Yesterday, Rahul Gandhi's flashing of cards and, showing pictures and all of that was a little unsettling for me personally. I've always said that Rahul raises the right issues, but in the wrong kind of language. So,
let me bring in Tehseen at this point. Do you agree with Tehseen? Do you agree with what the opposition did today, not allowing the Prime Minister to speak? Now, to me, it seems as if the opposition has decided it's payback time. They're getting even for the time in Parliament that more than 100 of them were suspended. They're getting even for what they think is the Speaker's bias. They have decided to bat on the front foot. Some on social media today called it hooliganism. Some called it an assertive opposition. But they shouted about a good issue, Manipur, throughout, almost at some points drowning out or seeking to drown out, rather, the Prime Minister. What did you think of that approach, and what did you think of how the Prime Minister handled it?
So, Barkha, thank you so much for having me in the show. If you ask me individually what I would do if I was in Parliament, and when I'm in Parliament, if I'm in opposition, I would not like to drown out the voice of the government. I would like to hear the treasury benches. That's personally me. I'm very old-fashioned and orthodox, as I've told you. But the problem that is that this is an opposition that has no trust on the government. And Om Birlaji's behavior, and I say this with a lot of sadness, does not behove the stature of a speaker. I said this earlier in his earliest term with you, and I was shocked and appalled when he switched off Rahul Gandhi's mic on Friday. It simply did not behove the stature of a speaker. You can disagree. You can ask him, you can't pass the resolution now, let the presidential resolution get over. All of that is fine, but he's the LOP. Look, who crossed that line? The line was crossed by Om Birla. He crossed it. The minute that line was crossed, all gloves were off. He did it personally. He did not need to do it. He needed to not be a BJP Karyakarta and be a speaker of Lok Sabha. A Lok Sabha that's seen great speakers across party lines. He crossed that line. There was no, I don't think the BJP asked him to do it. Now, once he did it, RG then yesterday was super aggressive. Now, what's happened is you have two camps. You have the pro-BJP camp and you have the pro-Congress camp. So everyone who's the pro-BJP camp is appalled by what happened yesterday. They are appalled. Everybody who's pro-Congress or pro-opposition or anti-BJP loved it. Everyone I spoke to, they said, this is the aggression we need. Look, we are Hindus. Why does the BJP speak for us? It's a divided country. It is so divided that this election hasn't healed. Now, who that job of healing or building that Sethi bridge has to be by the Prime Minister. Unfortunately for the Prime Minister, the comments the Prime Minister made in the elections, Muslim, Machi, Mangal Sutra, Mujra, Bhais, has again left the opposition distasteful. And now the opposition sends a weak Prime Minister. I disagree that the Prime Minister was not disturbed. I saw him disturbed. You don't see the Prime Minister getting irritated and saying, Apollo, you don't see him using these words in Parliament. But he's also used to doing Man Ki Baat in Parliament. The opposition have changed the strategy. They're forcing him to do Kaam Ki Baat now. Kaam Ki Baat is Manipur and NEET. He was running away from NEET. He doesn't want to discuss NEET because Dharmendra Pradhan has been completely taken for a ride by the Education Secretary and NTA on NEET. I'm not blaming Dharmendra Pradhan, but he's been completely fond on NEET. So now they have nothing to talk on NEET. So he is the Prime Minister, is for the first time defensive. What does he say? Prior to that, the Manipur MP made a fabulous speech that's gone very viral. So this is a Prime Minister who's now looking, not answering. Even when he spoke about the election results and what he intends to do, it was very vague. Hum bana denge third economy, just 10 seconds more. He's not specific. The Modi that I disagree with Modi ji, but the Modi ji that I admired, though I disagree with him, had a plan. Where was the plan today for the next 5 years? His entire thing, and I end it here, is people have a credit card, debit card. He seemed to be playing the victim card. इन्होंने ये बोला, उन्होंने ये बोला, ये बालक बुद्धि है, ये वो है, ये वो है. अरे भैया, आप 15 साल प्रधानमंत्री रहेंगे. आप क्या करोगे अगर 5 साल का वो बोलो, वो तो बोला ही नहीं.
See, I think it's a very interesting point that you raise, and I'll bring in Rajat and then Saba, and then I'll come to you, Surabhi. If we can just mute Tehseen, please, and I can come to Rajat. Rajat, my question to you is this. You know, on one of our previous shows, you made the point about the BJP having a disconnect with the youth. You know, that to need to find messaging that reached out to younger people. The exams and the issues around the exams is a key flashpoint for a lot of young people, but you also spoke about needing a new language. Now, what the Prime Minister said today, there were great colloquialisms, the Shole Ki Mausi and so on, and we'll play out that clip in just a moment, but there was nothing new. And it's obviously much easier to be an opposition leader looking for a narrative than to be a third-term government or a third-term Prime Minister crafting a narrative that sounds fresh. That's just the nature of politics. How do you think the Prime Minister did today, and how do you think the opposition did between today and yesterday?
So, of course, I mean, there is no denying the fact that the opposition came in with a clear mindset to drown the voice of the Prime Minister today. And I believe, and I'm firmly of this view, that opposition, right from the day one, and I said this on your show as well, the agenda for the next 5 years is to completely derail and stall the functioning of the parliament. 10 years has been glorious days of productivity of the parliament. You will not see that those days coming back anytime over the next 5 years, be it constructive issues like the NEET, etc., or politicking that happens all the time. You will not see it. One of the reasons is all these videos are telecasted on social media. There is much more amount of craze around parliamentary debates. That was not the case. I mean, earlier, even 10 years back, parliamentary debates were seen with mundane point of view, that nothing exciting happens there, and none of these politicians were playing to a theater. Right now, the theater is set, and everybody is doing a performance there. Today, the opposition did a performance. The intent of that performance was to set the agenda for the next 5 years and ensure that Prime Minister Modi's voice remains drowned perpetually. Now, this is the frame which they started off with. Now, it was up to Prime Minister, in the entire hooliganism that we saw demonstrated by the opposition to put out a positive agenda for the next 5 years. I could hear him barely. He and the other parliamentarians had those noise cancelling devices, but we audience did not. So it was very hard to sort of understand fully and completely. But yes, one thing that he came up with was to set, this framing problem that BJP has entered into. The framing problem is that, BJP got 240 and India Alliance got 235. First of all, this is a wrong sort of a framing. BJP and the Alliance are 300 plus, and the opposition is at 235. And there is a clear big divide. But, shows after shows, narrative after narrative, BJP is finding itself trapped into this at par analysis that they are almost just a hairline difference between the opposition and the BJP. This is where Prime Minister had to come out and do the job that, party's communication department should have handled really well, is that you did not win this election. This is not your mandate to come out and drown the voice of the government. And he had to go on and on and on to clear
you use the phrase hooliganism. It seems the opposition.
If I were to open their Kala Chitta, Congress, there are sitting CBI cases of 1,700 fake encounters committed by the Congress government, both in center and in the state, against the common people of Manipur. Have we forgotten Irom Sharmila? Have we forgotten her 16-year fast? Have we forgotten 5 genocides that have happened in that state prior to the current crisis? But the problem is that it is up to the BJP's communication wing to come out with a state of the report of the state of Manipur and put it before the public. Today, opposition is needlessly trying to bring in a situation in Manipur and trying to politic around it. Of course, it is BJP's problem. They need to address it ASAP. They are doing it. Parlays are happening every single day as we speak. But there is nobody who's communicating it. And that is where the problem is, that there was a no confidence motion. The only no confidence motion against Modi ji was on Manipur issue. Today, his voice was drowned on Manipur issue, and we still do not have a public position of the BJP.
But just to say that, irrespective of how we all think of what the opposition did today, the Prime Minister's own silence or own lack of visible action on Manipur is also hurting him, right?
This is what I'm saying. He needs to tell. I mean, it's not that the BJP and the government are devoid of actions. I'm telling you, today, there was a meeting that happened in Silchar, wherein the Jiribam civil society members from both the communities were brought in for deliberations, so that there is, peace brought into the district of Jiribam. But who is doing the talking? And this is the problem, that somebody from the government spokesperson should give in a daily report of all the back channel and all the discussions that are happening on Manipur issue. Why run away from it? This ostrich effect that, the storm is going to pass is not going to work. It has not worked over the past 1 year, and it is not working now. I mean, why is Prime Minister Modi getting embarrassed and humiliated this way by the opposition? I feel sorry for that. It is the donor. You have a donor minister. You have the home minister. All of these ministries should come out and put the facts bare before the public and before the opposition. And there is enough to talk about.
This is so interesting. Tehseen, you have a brief interjection, but if I were to shut my eyes and forget for one moment which party we're talking about, we could be talking about the Congress party previously, where we used to go on about, all of us, how poor they were at communication. Very briefly, Tehseen, I need to go to Saba and Surabhi. Tehseen?
I actually, you just stole the words out of my mouth, Barkha. And for the first time, a very few times I agree with Rajat. It's right. I am appalled at the BJP's communication department. I was actually speaking to one of their senior spokespersons yesterday. It is the tumbling. This is the beginning of UPA. I don't know if BJP can handle it or no. This feels exactly those vibes. There is zero communication, and except for Sudhanshu Trivedi and Shehzad, they are completely. Of course, you have a very articulate spokesperson here, but their communication department, I'm frazzled. This is BJP that set the agenda. I can't. They suddenly seem like clueless, and it's left to the Prime Minister to defend. Imagine Prime Minister defending. The Prime Minister should be your last card. And it actually is, the BJP is playing to the script of what the opposition is setting. And I used to think that the opposition would play to this script. So, yeah, it's surprising, but it's not enough. For now, at least.
Ironies of politics, Saba and then Surabhi. And yes, while we're speaking about BJP spokespeople, I do say that many of their better spokespeople are in the states. Surabhi's from Karnataka, and many of them do a much more effective and polite and civil job, when you actually tap into the state leaders. Saba, is the Rahul Gandhi and the opposition is playing a high-risk game. And the high-risk game is something like this. In the campaign, they have stayed away from issues concerning religion. They believe that's playing on BJP's terms. They have wanted to stick on economics, livelihood, Agniveer, farmers, right? Now they've entered the BJP's backyard and they're attacking they're needling the BJP on the BJP's own issues. If you were to compare the two performances with just as the analyst that you are, how do you think both leaders did? Saba, we can't hear you. Your signal has suddenly become terrible.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
And yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, Saba.
So Rahul Gandhi took those positions, and there's been deliberation because the BJP lost.
Okay.
Actually, there's some speeches made by other MPs wherever the journey of Lord Ram went. I think in the Rajya Sabha, in those sides they lost. So it is. Let's say Akhilesh Yadav did it with greater finesse. He did not do it in a way that would offend because he really had a spectacular victory of 37 seats. And the BJP is losing the Hindu card. So perhaps the Congress, I'm not a fan of bringing anything religious into conversations, but the BJP does it. We've had a parliament for a decade. Please, for all of those who have not been in parliament, Barkha, you have, I don't know if the others have, you have not had a parliament which has functioned.